So the question is, when we are ideating, at what time do you start sharing about the ideation? What do you think, and what's your personal experience with your clients, with your organization? When do you ideate, by yourself? When do you start articulating within your team? When do you start articulating into the larger population? What's your experience on this?
Arun, if I go by my experience, there has to be a culture within an organization, an enterprise. It could be a microcosm, it could be a large enterprise that we're talking about. The culture and the willingness to collaborate, I believe, is extremely important for innovation to have a voice and to be heard within an enterprise. So let me share this. This was in the summer of 2015, when one of our CEO, when he was having a conversation with one of our independent directors who has a pharmaceutical company. All right. So I'm just talking about how the problem statement came to us. The problem statement was that the client actually had come up with what we refer to as an InsuPen, which is used for diabetic patients, right? There is an InsuPen. So their company had that. Unfortunately, they were not able to sell enough of their products. Okay. So they came to our, I mean, during just a casual discussion, what they were talking to us was, what the leaders were talking was that how can we increase the sale of that particular InsuPen? Because we are in a country where diabetes is not just a lifestyle problem, it's actually come here to stay for a very long time. Okay, so the problem statement was, how do we make some changes to the cap of the InsuPen? So look at how the problem statement comes. So now when the problem statement was shared with the innovation team, the team initially just started jumping into action mode and saying, hey, you know what? I really don't understand the role of the InsuPen is, right? Why is it that they want us to change the cap and the design of the cap of the InsuPen? Right? What is going to be the outcome? Will it be able to drive revenues in such a manner that if we change the design of an InsuPen cap, the entire thing is going to change? Now, we mulled over it for a while. Actually, it was, swimming through dark waters because we had no clue about why this problem statement had come up. And after a couple of discussions, we realized the importance of bringing in a cross-functional team, right? Earlier, it was just a technology team that had designed the InsuPen and manufacturing team, and they had actually got a partnership with a German client, and they came up with the InsuPen. And much later, we realized that that was not the problem at all. So we were swimming through dark waters for a long time. We had not found a solution. And here we had the leadership telling us that, change the cap of the InsuPen. What I want to drive home here is not just that the problem statements that come to us can actually put you up against a wall and you have no clue about where the problem has come from. To cut a long story short, we realized when we finally presented the design of the InsuPen that the problem was not in the cap at all. The problem was because the doctor was not able to keep track of the amount of insulin that the patient was injecting for themselves. It was very less, much lesser than what they should have been injecting for themselves. So what actually happened was they were not able to see a change in their diabetes reducing, and because of which they felt that the InsuPen was not useful. So to cut a long story short again, we used IoT. Using IoT, we brought the doctors, the technicians, the sales force, and all of them together to understand what is the real problem. How much is it? How much of insulin is actually getting injected? What is it that the technicians are guiding them? Is the doctor aware of what the patient is doing? And what is the sales force selling to them? To bring the entire thing together, we did walk into a dark room. And then when we suddenly realized that the problem was not the problem that is shared with us, but something totally different, it became a lot more easier for us to go beyond the problem and collaborate with cross-functional teams and work through it and, be relevant to the client. There have been instances where there have been wild and wacky ideas, and the whole purpose of reimagining the culture of an organization to drive innovation. If we are looking at the way in which we were working many years ago and then looked at innovation, it would have seemed like something which was really huge and very difficult to achieve. But what actually helped us was A, the cross functional team, and B, to suspend judgments, right? People can come in with different ideas. It can be big, small, trivial, whatever it is. Can we just hold our peace when someone is sharing an idea and respect it completely? Because you never know what can start off as a small idea can catapult into something which is very huge. And we saw that with one of our clients actually, where the problem statement that came to us was to relook at the energy efficiency for the houses in Germany. This is also the same time when thermal power was being scaled down, right? Which is about 5 years ago, right? About 4 years ago. So what happened was they were not able to depend on the thermal power, and they had to have also look at energy efficiency, right? But what actually happened was while we did address the problem, which is to increase the efficiency of the power lines, we also were able to come up with an idea which was about connected homes. All right. So, sometime, and where did that idea come from? It came from one of the students who we were engaging with, because we were looking at cross-functional teams and we were working with this particular team in Germany when we were having empathy conversations. And we were able to kind of convert it into something which was so beautiful. And it was a new business line that they were able to take up, which is how can we have connected houses along with energy efficient houses? So it's just fascinating where ideas can come from and how, if we are able to listen to those ideas, we can convert them into something really, really beautiful. 5 years or probably 10 years ago, when we spoke about it, innovation, we partnered with and we were kind of using William Miller approach, right, which was really good, right? It was about identifying what kind of styles people had and all of it. But somewhere we were not getting there, right? And it's only when this became, what we refer to as a murmuration approach, right? A murmuration is where you have hundreds of birds flying in different patterns around. So for them to coordinate, there has to be a lot of collaboration. There has to be a lot of syncing in, connecting with each other. So that interconnectedness actually help them form those beautiful patterns. And that's something that our ex-CEO actually used as a reference to bring the organization together. He said, can we have these moments of murmuration where people talk to each other, not just one or two? I want it to be collective. I want that groundswell, and I want it from the bottom of the pyramid. I don't want the leaders to be coming up with ideas and expecting things to be executed back here. I want them at the bottom of the pyramid who are really, really have a lot of respect for, to bubble up their ideas, and then the groundswell should actually convince some of the leaders to take up some of the projects and then drive through. So it was just a culture change. First, it has to address the culture change, which is the hierarchies and the egos and all of those silos that need to be broken. After which it went on to, okay, now let's look at what we can do differently, right?
So, as a one moment, can you go
Yeah.
deeper in this beautiful point?
Mhm.
If you could give a clue as to how we could do this in our own organizations or in a client place, how exactly this approach, what you said about, I guess, the coming together of the patterns and the flocks of birds, how do I apply it? Let's say I go back into my office tomorrow. I have a team of 20 people. I run an organization. So either small or big, how do I apply it? Could you guide us a little bit more from your experience, please?
Definitely, Arul. I could share a couple of this one. I'd also like to share some of the failures, okay? Because when we're looking about innovation, not everything is going to be a success. And for us to come to terms with the fact that it's okay to fail and to create a culture where failure is embraced. If you look at Apple, right, they are rewarded for the number of ideas, even if they fail. We need to come up with a culture of that kind to allow people to fail, to create a fail safe environment. And I love this term that Mashlekar has used, which is a fail safe environment. He says that unless an organization is able to come up with and embrace and reward a fail-safe environment, you will not see innovation out there. Okay, and that's exactly what was done. One of our guiding forces was this person called Alan Kay, a wonderful human being. He came up with this idea of a human revolution. Right now, who is Alan Kay? Alan Kay is a Turing award winner, and he was the one who conceptualized this OOPS, which is object-oriented programming. So what he says is the need for individuals to understand that it is about technology or the cognitive side coming together with the softer side, which is the human side, and that's why he called it a human revolution. And I'm going to use that as an example to respond to your question, which is how can we create this kind of a culture in organizations? The first of it is to definitely listen to what's happening within the organization. Um, and if everything is around a decision that is taken by a leadership, it's not going to run, like we've just discussed. So, what is it that we're hearing from people around? Right, and like you said, it could be a secretary, it could be an accountant, it could be a person who is looking at sales, it could be a person who is working with numbers, it could be a person who is doing some of the operational stuff. But the point is, what are we listening, right? Do we really spend some time understanding the human component of the human pain uh, um, areas that they are going through, right? Just to give you a simple example, if I'm talking to a housekeeping person in a community or in an organization, my question is going to be around what's going to make you feel happy? What has made you happy in the last few days? What are some ups and downs? I'm not going to ask the person directly what the problem is, because that's where the cognition comes in, and they're not going to tell me what the problem is, because there's going to be a sense of fear of who is this going to be shared with. So to create an environment where you accept individuals and have a lot of communication flowing between people, within people, because these are some of the things that I've seen working in my organization. And when we've taken up projects on transformation for client organizations, this is something that we look at, which is a culture change. So, which is now culture change is about trust, is about understanding the value system of the organization, is about building a sense of communication and collaboration within. And once that is taken care of, and I would think that that takes a much longer time, and it's not about running events, giving rewards. These are not things that actually matter to individuals. It has to be something which is much deeper, right? Are we able to understand what is meaningful for them? And once we are able to understand what is meaningful for the individuals, then we can start looking at that takes care of, to some extent, the culture of the organization, which would be the background to look at innovation, also to have conversations around innovation. Then to look at the next step, which is now what is the problem? Are we looking at problem within the organization? So if we look at what we did within our organization, we wanted to see how um, uh, transportation was a huge problem across development centers, right? How can we address that real problem of individuals? If we are able to address the real problem of individuals, then they are going to be connected with client problems. So if you solve their problems, then they start looking beyond. And then let's start looking at, like, something that used to be shared earlier. How can we look beyond an SOW? A statement of work is not the be all and the end all. If you want to connect with the client and also navigate their next and take them to a totally different realm, it has to go beyond an SOW, right? But to ask an employee to go beyond an SOW would not really make any sense if you're not able to address their personal problems, right? I may not be able to address some of the problems back in their home, but I probably could. But am I willing to listen and empathize and see if there is some way in which we can put that at ease and then look at something which is beyond? And that's exactly what has helped us. In order to do that, collaboration between business, collaboration between the technology tracks, the learning tracks, the sales, everyone coming together to acknowledge that even a simple problem is a problem, irrespective of who has spoken about the problem. And creating that culture actually made a huge difference.